Hello, everyone. Happy Douglas Day. We are delighted to be joining you here. It's February 14th, 2024, which means it's time for our 8th annual Douglas Day celebration. We are so delighted that so many of you have been able to join us today. This is our biggest Douglas Day ever. We think that there are something like 8,500 of us getting ready to do some transcribing and eating some birthday cake today at 170 different locations on 4 continents. This is an incredible collective action for Black history in this moment, in these times. So thank you for joining us today. We're really looking forward to sharing all the great stuff we have prepared for you today. My name is Jim Casey, and I'm now going to pass the mic to Denise Berger.
Thank you so much, Jim. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You are here for the best part of Black History Month. This is where all of the action is going to take place. Now, as we get started, just before we begin, we're going to actually introduce you to Debrika McClung. And Debrika McClung is going to show up on the live stream right now, and she's going to explain to us a new feature of Douglas Day. As you know, we're committed to making sure that everyone has access to come and celebrate with us. And so without further ado, Debrika McClung, who is representing deaf and hard of hearing people and the culture of that community and the ways that we are making sure to make connections from Douglas Day to this community. Debrika?
Hello, and we're having some technical difficulties right now. This is Debrika's sign language interpreter. Debrika is using my voice. Please hold for a moment. Okay, thank you. All right, so Debrika said, hello, my name is Debrika, and I'm here to explain what the meaning of BASL or BASL means. All right, so my name is Debrika McClung, and I'm a Black sign language interpreter. So the meaning of the Black Deaf American Sign Language that was used and actually originated quite a while ago in Washington, D.C. in the 50s. And the school elementary school for the deaf and hard of hearing near Gallaudet University in Washington, D.C. was the first time where BASL was recognized. Why were kids using BASL? Because black and white students were separated still at that point. And so the black students created their own version of American Sign Language. Was it original? Was it the official American Sign Language? No, it was our version of American Sign Language with this. We were still not totally integrated at that time. And so about BASL. So, BASL started with Southern roots, like so many things with Black, deaf, and Black. It was in Texas, Alabama, South Carolina, Georgia, all the southern regions of America. And typically, again, with segregation going on, the concept of how to educate Black deaf was different than the concept of how to educate white deaf. And we were typically behind educationally. Therefore, the communication was somewhat different. Like, we used our hands differently and our signs differently. The way we communicate, like, for example, use our hands. If we said in a larger space, if we said we would use different linguistics as a word for our space, we would repeat words for emphasis. And that's basically in our expressions, everything, emphasized in race.
Thank you so very much, Dabrika. We really appreciate that. Unfortunately, the audio was terrible. We were having a really, really hard time hearing you. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and record that and make that available. But thank you so, so very much for that explanation. So thank you, Edie, for that explanation, and Dabrika. We're going to move on to the next thing. So again, apologies for that audio. We had no control over it. We tried to fix it, but we just actually could not get that up. And so what we're going to do right now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to the next person in our program, and that would be Pastor McReynolds, who is coming to us from Albright Methuen. And Pastor McReynolds is actually going to give us an ecumenical blessing. Thank you, Pastor McReynolds.
Yes, it is an honor and a privilege to stand before you on this beautiful day, for this is the day that the Lord has made, and we shall rejoice and be glad in it. Thank you, Dr. Denise and Penn State, of thinking of me for such a time as this. Douglas Day 2024. Who they say that I am, who they say I can become, who may say my intellect is beneath. We find a man, the myth, the legend himself, Frederick Augustus Washington, born into slavery in Talbot County, Maryland in 1818, went on to become a pinnacle of the abolitionist movement. Taught himself to read and write and became one of our great orators, civil rights leader, and government official. As a little boy, my father instilled in my sister and I that our education will make room for us and a difference in our lives. That my ancestors had to literally fight and die so that I may sit where they couldn't. Douglas stated that education is the pathway from slavery to freedom. I believe that these words echo true in the halls of truth, that in order to extricate oneself from the delusions of this world, we must have a solid foundation rooted in education. As we have gathered today to engage, encourage, and empower ourselves, future generations, by telling his story and sharing his words and thoughts. This beloved community on Ash Wednesday, a time of remembrance and reflection, we take time to honor a black man who stood in the gap for me and others who look like me and others who don't. I ask the question that I believe is important on today. What will you do? Will you stand up for others, or are you sitting down in silence? Will you move forward to help eradicate injustice, or will you stay back in the fray watching the decay? Will you go to educate, emulate persons of merit who fight to see freedom as an opportunity to unify in our commonalities and seeing our differences as rooms for growth? Or will you stop and hinder progress in order to live out your own selfish desires? Lord, give us tenacity, the capacity, and the audacity to love when it's hard, to never stop striving for freedom. Douglas stated, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet depreciate agitation are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters. The struggle may be a moral one, or it may be a physical one, or it may be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It did, and it never will. Let us pray. Let us pray. Please, Lord, help us to bring about transformation in the lives of those hurt by economic discrimination, by voter rights, by injustices. Lord, help us to build bridges of hope with people. Don't allow our hearts to harden that we build walls to keep others out. Lord, be with us, be with this community as we strive to make a difference in the lives of those hearing this around the world. From the seasoned saint to the young who may not know this story, and to the students of Penn State, allow them to be dreamers that are catalysts of change and renewal. We say amen and ashe.
Thank you so much, Pastor McReynolds. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now we have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Clayton Coleman, who is going to lead us in the singing of the Black National Anthem. He's going to give us a little bit of an intro, and you're going to have the words so that you can join in. Please join in. This is a moment for us to collectively stand with each other as we think about and reflect on the meaning of Douglass Day.
Thank you, Denise. Happy Douglass Day, everybody. This is one of the times of year that I look forward to the most, not only because I get to be with all of you, but because I get to stand in the space of ancestors. And we all get to do that through singing together this song, the Black National Anthem, which is also known as Lift Every Voice and Sing. Many folk have talked about the power that music has to transcend boundaries, to transcend generations, and folk have been singing this song for generations. So when we sing this together, we're not only singing with each other, we're singing with folk who have sung it before, and two, singing to the future for folk who will sing it in the future. So y'all ready to sing along? All right, here we go. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the dark past has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, Thou who hast by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. Y'all sound so beautiful. Thank you for sharing and singing with all of us. Happy Douglass Day, everybody.
Thank you so much, Dr. Clayton Coleman. And without further ado, we're going to hand the mic now to Dr. Jim Casey, who will introduce our next speaker. Jim?
Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Clay. That's one of my favorite parts of every Douglas Day. That's such a treat. Thank you for being with us. It is now my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce to you Professor P. Gabrielle Foreman, our collaborator of many years, who's going to help to welcome us and open up the proceedings. Gabrielle?
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Dr. Coleman. Thank you, Demetra. Thank you, Lori, man. That was a beautiful rendition from your hands of the Lift Every Voice and Sing. I am one of the two co-directors with Shirley Moody Turner of the Center for Black Digital Research at Penn State, and we house Douglas Day and the Color Conventions Project and the Black Women's Organizing Archive. We're made up of about 45 core members, graduate student leaders, scholars, and students from multiple fields and colleges and universities across the country, librarians, digital specialists, a stellar staff. And over the years at University of Delaware and now at Penn State, we've worked with hundreds of students across more than 75 fields and disciplines, majors, with dancers and poets and muralists, and with museums and repositories and faculty across North America, not to mention more than 50,000 transcribers over the years of Black records like you. We call our center Dig Black, or Dig Black, which stands for Digitize Black Records, Excavate Black History, Dignify Black Scholarship, and Love Black People. Every year we commemorate Douglas's chosen birthday and Valentine's Day in what we call a celebration of collective love for Black history. And we love how it's grown into an international event, now one that's entered into an exciting partnership with the Library of Congress under the magnificent leadership of Carla Hayden. In the spirit of honoring leadership, it is a pleasure for me and all of the members of our team to take this opportunity to publicly thank both Penn State's College of Liberal Arts and Dean Clarence Lang, and Penn State's University Libraries and Dean Faye Chadwell for their exceptional support of this collective work that reaches into the community and advances scholarship and research. We are particularly honored that Dean Lang, a historian of Black social movements himself, is here to also welcome you to Douglas Day. So we join the leaders of Douglas Day, every one of you, and as Dr. Coleman said, those from the past and those who will be coming into the future, in inviting Dean Lang to the podium.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Professor Foreman. And on behalf of the College of the Liberal Arts at Penn State, it is my great pleasure to welcome you, all 9,000 of you around the world, so I'm told, to this year's Douglas Day, which honors the life and legacies of the slavery abolitionist, writer, and orator Frederick Douglass. I just want to reflect, 9,000 people, right? That's what I'm hearing? So around the world. Fantastic, fantastic. And as always, I'm grateful for the work of the Center for Black Digital Research, or CBDR, in coordinating this event, which, among other things, allows us to celebrate Black History Month. But we understand that Black History Month is the center, but not the circumference, of the more important simultaneous task of commemorating, memorializing, documenting, protecting, defending African American history year-round. So I'm very happy to note that Douglas Day 2024 begins CBDR's new 3-year partnership with the Library of Congress to help transcribe the library's digital collections for future generations, a building for the future. Certainly, this is a point of pride for the center. I believe I can take the liberty of saying that, but it's also a point of pride for the college, for Penn State University Libraries, and indeed for Penn State overall, and certainly for the field. So my congratulations to CBDR on that accomplishment. Best wishes for a fruitful collaboration with the Library of Congress, and good luck to all of you around the world with today's transcriptions. And I'll get out of the way and let you continue with your program. Thank you very much for the opportunity to join this celebration.
Thank you so much, Dean Ling. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. The very next person who you're going to see and hear will be Aiden McConnell, who is a valued member of the CBDR team and the Douglas Day team. So, Aiden, you want to come up and take us through?
Hi, everyone. My name is Aiden McConan, and I'm a dual title PhD student at Penn State in Geography and African Studies, where I serve as a Dick Black Fellow for the Center for Black Digital Research. I'll be introducing some of the rest of the schedule that we have going before our break. Some of the folks that we'll have speaking with us today include Courtney Murray, who is a PhD student in English and African American Studies and a Dick Black Fellow at the Center for Black Digital Research at Penn State. Additionally, we'll also have Summer Hamilton, Dr. Summer Hamilton, who will also be speaking. Who serves as an assistant research professor of digital scholarship at Penn State University. She's also the digital projects designer for Liberal Arts Research Initiative in the Office of Digital Pedagogy Initiatives. We've already been joined by Dr. Foreman, but we'll be seeing her once again. And then we'll also have Gabby Sutherland also joining us, who is the Communications and Events Administrator at the Center for Black Digital Research, where she serves as the admin liaison for Douglas Day. So I'll be having Courtney first join.
Okay. Although black churches began commemorating Frederick Douglass shortly after he died in 1895, to understand Douglas Day's rich history, we must recognize that black women specifically created and sustained what we know to be Douglas Day today. It wasn't until 1897, with the recommendation of Mary Church Terrell at a D.C. school board meeting, that Douglas Day became a school holiday celebrated on February 14th and became the eventual predecessor to Negro History Week, later expanded to Black History Month by Carter G. Woodson. This genealogy of a holiday dedicated to black history owes its creation and growth to the activism and labor of black women like Terrell and Anna Julia Cooper. That means that Douglas Day is not merely a birthday celebration about one of the most important and most photographed men of the 19th century, but Douglas and his memory became a black club women's movement focused on historic preservation. With Terrell, Douglas Day intersected both her commitment to racial uplift, as shown here when she proudly declared, quote, "It proves that I and nobody else established Douglas Day." But also to the suffrage movement and Douglas's efforts to that movement, which reflects that without Douglas's advocacy, quote, "It is anybody's guess how long the cause of suffrage for women would have been delayed." Terrell's thoughts represent that Douglass significantly impacted black club women and their organizing efforts. They enmeshed his memory into a communal pedagogy. Douglas Day not only reached the young, but in the case of Cooper and Franklin University, it also had a place in adult education and training. Douglas Day brought together broader networks of black women across the country. For example, the NACW, National Association of Colored Women, employed Douglas and his namesake day as a fundraising campaign for the upkeep of Douglas's home, among other projects and activities. Even corporations either owned by or affiliated with black women played a role in memorializing Douglas's life and impact well into the 1960s. Fast forward to 2017 at the University of Delaware, these black women's efforts guided the Colored Convention's project team to revive these celebrations as memorials that invite active participation and community building. Their Douglas Day principles recenter that many black collections, holidays, and movements would not be what they were or are without the labor and organizing of black women. As you can see, we have steadily moved towards memorializing the legacy and activism of black women at the foundation of Douglas Day since 2020 with our Transcribe Cooper project. But this year, with the Library of Congress's help, we return to our celebration's namesake. You will join over 8,000 people to celebrate the life and legacy of Frederick Douglass, the orator, activist, writer, and editor, but also husband, father, and grandfather. Similar to how his daughter Rosetta Douglass Sprague revealed the life and home behind the great man Douglass in 1900, which notably was reprinted by the NACW on this day 101 years ago, we hope transcribing Douglass's correspondence will also offer a deeper look into the activist's personal and private circles. You will find correspondence from well-known abolitionists and reformers inside and outside of the states, such as Ida B. Wells, who who expressed love to him for being, quote, the greatest man our race has yet produced, and because of what you have suffered and endured for the race's sake. Organizations and clubs, and also from families such as Sprague and close friends. As a little-known photo in his daughter's short book shows, a Douglass turned away from the camera at his desk, amongst his books, at home, with his dog Frank. You join us today to shine a light and learn together about the many facets of Douglass's life and legacy. So happy Black History Month, happy Douglass Day, and happy transcribing.
Thank you very much, Courtney. That was excellent and contextualizes what we're doing today in partnership with the Library of Congress as we get ready to transcribe Douglass's personal correspondence. So the very next person you're going to hear from is Dr. Gabrielle Foreman, who's going to give us an even deeper context of Frederick Douglass and his life. Dr. Foreman?
So we are about to transcribe the records of Frederick Douglass, y'all. And they are housed at the Library of Congress on his birthday. When you spend time with someone by burrowing into their letters, their personal and political writing, you get to know them in a much more intimate way. Many of us know this from picking up the letters of our parents or loved ones after they're gone. And there's something about access to a suspended moment in time, this proximity to them within it that brings us ever closer to them. And today we get to do that with Frederick Douglass himself, the man whose stolen literacy allowed him to quite literally write his way to freedom, to write his way into history. It's worth revisiting the first of his 3 autobiographies to appreciate what it means for thousands of us to gather today to transcribe Douglass's records. His copious writings important enough now to be housed at the American people's most vaunted National Library. As a young person called Fred, his life and labor were not his own. They had been assigned to people who had claimed him as property, people who uprooted and moved him as they saw fit until he landed in Baltimore as a boy, where his enslaver, enraged upon finding out that his wife was teaching young Frederick his letters, admonished her loudly that if the young slave, now he used a different word I can't repeat here, set off to begin learning, quote, there would be no keeping him. It would forever unfit him to be a slave. He would at once become unmanageable and of no value to his master. Hearing this, Douglass wrote, I set out with high hope and a fixed purpose at whatever cost of trouble to learn how to read. The very decided manner with which he spoke and strove to impress his wife that the evil consequences of giving me instruction served to convince me that he was deeply sensible of the truths he was uttering. It gave me the best assurance that I might rely with the utmost confidence on the results which, he said, would flow from teaching me to read. That what he most dreaded, that I most desired. What he most loved, that I most hated. That which to him was a great evil, to be carefully shunned, was to me a great good, to be diligently sought. And the argument which he so warmly urged against my learning to read only served to inspire me with a desire and determination to learn. In learning to read, I owe almost as much to the bitter opposition of my master as to the kindly aid of my mistress. I acknowledge the benefit of both. Here Douglass shares with us that not only reading, but reading in opposition, reading critically, is a gift of and a tool to the oppressed. That if you put your mind to do the opposite of what those who have no love say you should, that's one path to success, if not to freedom. They outlaw black history across the state, ban books, dismantle libraries. Remember Douglass. That which to them was a great evil to be carefully shunned was to me a great good to be deliberately and diligently sought. How many of us have followed that advice? How many of us have followed that advice? It's a lesson about power, individual and political, that's always worth repeating. Today, you're going to encounter Douglass across decades, not only Douglass the abolitionist, an all too encompassing term that tends to limit the scope of his work as an editor, as a writer of soaring speeches, narratives, a novella, as a leader of black-led multi-day political gatherings called colored conventions, that he first attended when he was first 25 and 2 years before his first narrative was published, and then over and over again for 4 decades. Today, you may transcribe Douglass as he defended and later became consul general to Haiti. These records will reveal him to be a complicated statesman, the head of the Freedmen's Bank when it failed, wiping away millions of dollars of hard-earned funding in one of the most important and understudied financial scams against black communities and individuals, and they knowingly pinned it on Douglass in one of the most embarrassing and devastating periods of his long career. Today, you're going to encounter Douglass the mentor, the advocate, the egoist, the most photographed person in all of 19th century America. You'll encounter one of the most famous orators, but in writing. You'll read letters penned by Douglass, the staunch and ongoing women's rights advocate, the musician, the father, grandfather, husband, lover, and family man. You'll see him embedded in multiple worlds, including the wide networks of black political and social life that has largely been erased in the copious scholarship about his life. And you'll come out with an intimacy that we hope you will treasure. An individual gift to Douglass, a collective gift to history. Douglass once said, "There is power in numbers and in union. Many are more than the few." And we believe that. So today, as we number in the thousands, our transcribing is a way to say, "Happy birthday, Frederick Douglass," from all of us. Let's go.
Thank you, Dr. Foreman. And now we're going to have Dr. Summer Hamilton, who is going to take you into the meat of the matter. So Dr. Summer Hamilton is going to walk us through how we actually transcribe. Dr. Hamilton?
Thank you. So I am hyped now. So let's get started. So I'm going to talk you through how to give you an overview, really, of the By the People platform for the Douglass Day transcription. So to begin, you're going to navigate to the Yours Truly page in your browser, and the link is shown on the page. So don't worry if you don't get this on this first slide. I'm going to have it on every slide, so if you missed the first one, you can catch it on like the fourth one. Okay, so once you get in, to get started, you will have the option to create an account. You don't have to create an account, but if you want to have access to additional features such as tagging or reviewing transcriptions for others, or even keeping up with your own work, then you'll want to go ahead and create an account. Okay, so once you've gotten in, and whether you've created an account or not, you'll go ahead, and if you scroll down, you'll see that you have you'll have filters. If you select the filter that says Get Started, then you'll be able to go ahead and transcribe, or you can select the filter that says Review, and we'll talk a little bit more about what those mean in just a second. So to transcribe means, I want to be clear, to transcribe means to type as best you can what appears on the image. And I want to emphasize that as best you can, because we're not expecting perfection, just like do your best, and it's a collective effort. So to transcribe, you want to think about it as if you were reading aloud. If you were reading the document aloud, how would you write it down? What would you say? Use that same methodology to figure out how you type it. And you want to type it according to the, as it appears on the screen, left to right, top to bottom. Go along with the line breaks, create a line break when you need to. Use brackets and question marks for things you don't understand. I'll have more information about that at the end so that everything is clear.
Okay, to review. I love this feature of reviewing. If you were the kid in school who liked to check people's work, this is your day. So you'll get a chance to, there are other volunteers who have created transcriptions, and if you choose review, then you'll get a chance to go through and compare the original document to the transcription that's there. If it looks great, just then accept it. If you see corrections that need to be made, then you can put corrections. And that's why I say do your best you can, because it's a collaborative effort. And so we're all working together to make these transcriptions. And so if you miss something, don't worry, somebody's coming behind you to catch it for you. Now, a lot of the documents that we'll run across today, because it's Frederick Douglass's correspondence, they're going to be handwritten. They're going to be in cursive. We encourage you to take your time. So at first, maybe it seems a little difficult or unfamiliar. Take your time, give a few minutes to adjust, let your brain adjust to it. Look for words that are clear. Maybe if the first few words aren't, look for some that are. Use those letters to kind of help you get an idea of the style to go back, and that will help you try to figure out the rest of the words. And again, do your best. Go back one. Also, adding tags. So you can, at the bottom of each screen, you'll have the option to add a tag. So tags can be useful, kind of like hashtags that you may use on social media, where you can categorize things and group things together. So for example, if you see him talking about, or someone talking about Frank, the dog, then perhaps you want to put pet, and so that when people are searching for pet, then they can find all of those letters that refer to that. You can also use tags if you want to provide the correct spelling for a word that maybe was misspelled in the document, because you want to transcribe according to exactly what you see in the document, but then use the tag to show the correct spelling. Okay. So I've gone over a lot really fast, but if you need help, there are ways to get help. So while you're transcribing, at the top of every page, there's always a link to how to transcribe, how to review, how to add tags. All of that is there for you to click on at any time. Also at the bottom of the page, there are basic quick instructions that you can access as well. If you need more help, or if you find something interesting, we encourage you to use the app formerly known as Twitter. So if you want to go to Twitter or Instagram, or if you want to tweet, hashtag Douglas Day, or you can tweet directly to the LOC. You can also post on History Hub, which is a crowdsourcing forum that is on the Library of Congress's site. You will need to create a second account to do that, but that's another place you can get help. And also, everything that I've gone over today is posted on douglasday.org. If you will go to the transcription, the organizing kit on douglasday.org, you'll see a link to the transcription tutorials, and it has everything that we've gone over today. All the links that I've gone over, everything will be there for you to find. You can print these instructions out if that'll be helpful for you. We do recommend that, or you can just use them on your screen. But again, everything is there for you, and happy Douglas Day, and happy transcribing.
Right, the very next person that you're going to hear from is Gabrielle Sutherland, who is a member of the Douglas Day team and one of the fabulous members of the admin at the Center for Black Digital Research. Gabrielle?
Thank you, Denise. Hi, everyone. So it's not a birthday party without cake. We're very excited to see how you're celebrating, what kind of cakes you're making. So please tag us in your social media today at douglasday.org and with the hashtag DouglasDay. We want to see those cakes. We've seen some amazing ones already this morning. The bar is very high. Our jury's keeping an eye on social media, and also our email. If you don't have access to social media, please email your cake to us at douglasday.org@gmail.com. We're really excited to share some of them later. We'll be sharing some of our favorites later in the broadcast, and we will be announcing the winner at 2:45. Keep them coming. They're looking really beautiful.
Thank you very much, Gabby. Thank you very much. So is everyone ready? Are we excited? Do we feel ready to get started with transcribing? Do you feel prepared? Do you feel that you know a little bit more about Douglas and his family and why it's so important for us to do this? Do you understand that you are going to be participating in creating access to Black history for generations in partnership with the Library of Congress? Ready, y'all? Let's go.
So we're going to go to intermission time now. We're going to come back at 1 o'clock to start the next part of our program. In the meantime, you are welcome to get transcribing if you aren't already, or reviewing. And if you look on our website, douglasday.org, you can also find our very special Spotify playlist. So we will see everybody in 20 minutes to sing happy birthday and cut some cake. We'll see you in a bit. And we are back. Happy Douglas Day for those of you who are just joining us. Our 8th annual Douglas Day. We're coming to you here from State College, Pennsylvania. And we are pleased to report that we've been busy. If you will take a look at your screens right now, you will see we have completed 412 pages. We have typed, but not yet reviewed, 1,869 pages. And there are another 658 in progress. That's an incredible number of pages. We are changing the historical record as we literally breathe in this moment. We know that people are busy. We don't want to interrupt you too much, but we got some fun stuff to share. So I'm going to now pass the mic to Denise.
Thank you so much, Jim. Seriously, you guys, you really deserve to give yourselves a round of applause. It is so critically important that we do this work and that we take this time. This is truly an expression of love for Black history. So right now we're going to get ready to not just move on to our next topic, but we're going to talk a little bit about what we've been doing. So please, on Twitter, on Instagram, if you found something interesting, tweet about it. What was formerly Twitter. If you found something interesting, take a screenshot. Go ahead and post it. Talk about it. Share what you're learning as we're all doing this work together. Now, the very next person that we're going to hear from is actually going to be someone who you've already been introduced to, who's a magnificent member of our team, and she's going to lead us in the next really, really fun part. So, for everyone who's having a local event, get your birthday cake ready, y'all, because we're about to do this super, super exciting part of every birthday party that you've ever attended. Aiden?
So I'll be singing Happy Birthday to Frederick Douglass. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Clap along. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Woo! Happy birthday. All right.
Thank you so much, Aiden. Excellent. So, as y'all know, that was the Black Happy Birthday song immortalized by the inimitable Stevie Wonder. So, we are now going to introduce to some, remind others about the existence of a very, very interesting and compelling rendition of one of Frederick Douglass's major speeches. That is Dr. Hassan Al-Amin, who is going to perform for your pleasure and your edification Frederick Douglass's speech, Why Hold a Colored Convention? I ask that you pay close attention. I think that you will enjoy this.
Fellow citizens, charged with the responsibility and doing what we may to advance the interests and promote the general welfare of a people lately enslaved, and who, though now free, still suffer many of the disadvantages and evils derived from their former condition, not the least among which is a low and unjust estimate entertained of their abilities and possibilities and their value as citizens of the Republic. Allowing the existence of a magnanimous disposition on your part to listen candidly to an honest appeal for fair play, coming from any class of your fellow citizens who may have, or may think they have, rights to assert or wrongs to address. The members of this National Convention, chosen from all parts of the United States, representing the thoughts, feelings, and purpose of colored men generally, would most respectfully and earnestly ask your attention and favorable consideration to the matters contained in the present paper. Born on American soil in common with yourselves, deriving our bodies and our minds from its dust, centuries having passed since our ancestors were torn from the shores of Africa, we, like yourselves, hold ourselves to be in every sense Americans, and that we may therefore venture to speak to you in a tone not lower than that which becomes earnest men and American citizens. Having watered your soil with our tears, enriched it with our blood, performed its roughest labor in time of peace, defended it against enemies in time of war, and at all times been loyal and true to its best interest. We deem it no arrogance or presumption to manifest now a common concern with you for its welfare, prosperity, honor, and glory. If the claim thus set up by us be admitted as we think it ought to be, it may be asked, what propriety or necessity can there be for the convention of which we are members? And why are we now addressing you, asking for justice and fair play? These questions are not new to us. From the day the call for this convention went forth, this seeming incongruity and contradiction has been brought to our attention from one quarter to another, sometimes with argument, sometimes without argument, sometimes with seeming pity for our ignorance, and at other times fierce censure for our depravity. These questions have met us. With apparent surprise, astonishment, and impatience, we have been asked, what more can the colored people of this country want than they have now? And what more is possible for them? It is said that they were once slaves, they are now free. They were once subjects, they are now sovereign. They were once outside of all American institution. They are now inside of all and are a recognized part of the whole American people. Why then do they hold colored national conventions and thus insist upon keeping up the color line between themselves and their white fellow countrymen? Happily for us and for the honor of the Republic, the United States Constitution is just, liberal, and friendly. The amendments to this instrument, adopted in the trying times of Reconstruction of the Southern states, are a credit to the courage and statesmanship of the leading men of that crisis. These amendments established freedom and abolished all unfair and invidious discrimination against citizens on account of race and color, so far as law can do so. In their view, citizens are neither black nor white, and all are equal. With this admission and this merit of reproof to trimmers and traitors, we come again to the question, why are we here in this national convention? To this we answer, First, because there is power in numbers and in union. Because the many are more than the few. Because the voice of a whole people oppressed by a common injustice is far more likely to command attention and exert influence on the public mind than the voice of single individuals and isolated organizations. Because coming together from all parts of the country, the members of the National Convention have the means of a more comprehensive knowledge of the general situation and may, therefore, fairly be presumed to conceive more clearly and express more fully and wisely the policy it may be necessary for them to pursue in the premises. Because conventions of the people are in themselves harmless, and when made the means of setting forth grievances, whether real or fancied, they are the safety valves of the republic. A wise and safe substitute for violence, dynamite, and all sorts of revolutionary actions against the peace and good order of society. If they are held without sufficient reason, that fact will be made manifest in their proceedings, and the people will only smile at their weakness and pass on to their usual business without troubling themselves about the empty noise they are able to make. But if held with good cause by wise, sober, and earnest man, that fact will be made apparent, and the result will be salutary. That good old maxim, which has come down to us from revolutionary times, that error may be safely tolerated while truth is left free to combat it, applies here. A bad law is all the sooner repealed by being executed, and error is sooner dispelled by exposure than by silence. So much we have deemed it fit to say of conventions generally, because our resort to this measure has been treated by many as if there was something radically wrong in the very idea of a convention. It has been treated as if some ghastly secret conclave sitting in darkness to devise strife and mischief. The fact is, the only serious feature in the argument against us is the one which respects color. We are asked not only why hold a convention, but with emphasis, why hold a colored convention? Why keep up this odious distinction between citizens of a common country and thus give countenance to the color line? It is argued that if colored men hold conventions based on color, white men may hold white conventions based on color, and thus keep open the chasm between one and the other class of citizens, and keep alive a prejudice which we profess to deplore. We state the argument against us fairly and forcibly, and will answer it candidly, and we hope conclusively. By that answer, it will be seen that the force of the objection is, after all, more in sound than in substance. No reasonable man will ever object to white men holding conventions in their own interest, when they are once in our condition and we in theirs, when they are the oppressees and we the oppressors. In point of fact, however, white men are already in convention against us in various ways and at many important points. The practical construction of American life is a convention against us. Human law may know no distinction among men in the respect of rights, but human practice may. Examples are painfully abundant. It is our lot in life to live among people whose laws, traditions, and prejudice have been against us for centuries. And from these, they are not yet free. To assume that they are free from these evils simply because they have changed their laws is to assume what is utterly unreasonable and contrary to facts. Large bodies move slow. Individuals may be converted on the instant and change their whole course of life. Nations never will. Time and events are required for the conversions of nations. Not even the character of a great political organization can be changed by a new platform. It will be the same old snake, though in new skin. Though we have war, reconstruction, abolition, as a nation, we still linger in the shadows and blight of an extinct institution. Though the colored man is no longer subject to be bought and sold, he is still surrounded by an adverse sentiment which fetters all his movements. In his downward course, he meets no resistance, but his course upward is resented and resisted at every step of his progress. If he comes in ignorance, he conforms to the popular belief of his character, and in that character he is welcomed. But if he shall come as a scholar and a statesman, he is hailed as a contradiction to the national faith concerning his race, and his coming is resented as impudence. In the one case, he provokes contempt and derision, but in the other, he is affront to pride and provokes malice. In spite of all your religion and laws, he is a rejected man. He is rejected by trade unions of every trade and refused work while he lives and burial when he dies. And yet he is asked to forget his color and forget that which everybody else remembers. Not even our churches, whose members profess to follow the despised Nazarene, whose home on earth was among the lowly and despised, have yet to conquer this feeling of colored madness. And what is true of our churches is also true of our courts of law. Neither is free from this all-prevailing atmosphere of color hate. The one prescribes the deity as impartial, no respecter of persons, and the other, the goddess of justice, as blindfolded. With swords by her sides and scales in her hand, held evenly between high and low, rich and poor, white and black, but both are images of American imagination rather than American practices. This condition of things is too flagrant and notorious to require specification or proof. Thus, in all relations of life and death, we are met by the color line. We can ignore it if we would, and ought not if we could. It haunts us at midnight. It denies us justice in courts, excludes our children from schools, refuses our son the chance to learn trades, and compels us to pursue only such labors as will bring the least reward. While we recognize the colored line as a hurtful force, a mountain barrier to our progress, we do not despair. We are a hopeful people. This convention is proof of our faith in reason, in truth, in justice, and our belief that prejudice, with all its malign accompaniments, may yet be removed by peaceful means. When this shall come, it will be then only used as it should be, to distinguish one variety of human family from another. It will cease to have civil, political, or moral significance, and colored conventions will then be dispensed with as anachronism, wholly out of place, but not until then. Do not marvel that we are not discouraged when we consider how deep-seated this feeling is against us. The long centuries it has been forming, the forces of avarice which have been marshaled to sustain it, how the language and literature of the country has been pervaded with it, how the church, the press, the playhouse, and other influences of this country have been arrayed in its support, the progress towards its extinction must be considered vast and wonderful. If liberty with us is yet but a name, our citizenship is but a sham, and our suffrage thus far only a cruel mockery. We may yet congratulate ourselves upon the fact that laws and institution of the country are sound, just, and liberal. There is hope for a people when the laws are righteous, whether for the moment they conform to the requirement or not. But until this nation shall make its practice accord with its constitution and its righteous laws, it will not do to reproach the colored people of this country with keeping up the color line. For that people would prove themselves scarcely worthy of even theoretical freedom, let alone practical freedom, if they settled down in silence, servile, and cowardly submission to these wrongs. They are bound to hold conventions in their own name and on their own behalf, to keep up the grievances before the people and make every organized protest against the wrong inflicted upon them within their power. Who would be free themselves must strike the blow. We do not believe, as we are often told, that the Negro is the ugly child of the national family. And the more he is kept out of sight, the better it will be for him. You know that liberty given is never so precious as liberty sought for and fought for. The man outraged is the man who makes the outcry. Depend upon it. Men will not care for a people who do not care for themselves.
Go ahead and preach now.
In awe of that performance by the great Hassan El Amin. Yes. That video is available on our YouTube channel, so you can go back and you can rewatch it and watch it again and again. We know that for us, it's really become one of the important rituals for Douglas Day. Part of our collective remembering is getting to hear that speech from Douglas that really speaks so powerfully to our moment. We wish we could be out there in all of those locations where we're seeing all the great photos of birthday cakes and minds and hands hard at work. We hope that you'll keep the social media posts coming. Yes. We are now going to go back into our time for transcribing. We are going to be back at 2 p.m. on the dot. We've got an even more special treat coming up for you at 2 o'clock. We're going to get to see some of the really cool historical material coming up along with some special guests. So we hope you will keep working. We hope you have some birthday cake. Yes. We hope you keep on transcribing, and we will see you at 2 p.m.
2 p.m.
See you in a bit. Okay, everybody, hello and welcome back. We're going to try and advance our slides in a moment. We are blown away by the progress that we are seeing so far. We knew that this was going to be a lot of work. We knew that there was going to be a lot of transcribing and reviewing, but this has been incredible so far. If we could ask maybe to advance the slides. We're going to show you a little bit of an update about how things have been going so far. I'm going to read from my screen. We might have to refresh it very quickly, but we are on pace, I think it's fair to say, to have one of our most productive Douglas Days ever. Yeah. We are creating a whole lot of Black history right now in this moment across so many of the places. We also have about 30 minutes for you to still submit your birthday cake submissions. There are, if you have not looked at social media, some incredible entries so far. Lots of our friends out there from years past and new friends apparently know their way around the kitchen because those cakes look incredible. Amazing. But let us give you a couple of samples of how we have gone so far. We have completed 647 pages. There are 3,304 which have been transcribed and are ready for you to review right now. And there are also 1,040 pages in progress. So we have made a huge amount of progress. We're going to get there. The finish line is coming up, but not too close, because there are 4,300 pages left to go. So we know that folks are making lots of progress. We know that it's probably time for some birthday cake and a snack, maybe keep hydrated, and then keep transcribing. So we have a few more things to share with you in our last remaining segment before we do our wrap-up close to the 3 o'clock hour. We are incredibly honored to share with you the next speaker, and I'm going to let Denise introduce her.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jim. Again, congratulations, and thank you for participating in this act of radical love for Black history. We are literally creating history in real time. So the very next person that you're going to hear from is a person who needs really actually no introduction. Her name is Adrienne Cannon, and she is the Director of African American History and Culture, the Manuscript Division at the Library of Congress. And in her role, what she was able to do was go into those archives and pull out artifacts, pull out documents that she thought would be particularly interesting to us as we are deep in learning and transcribing Frederick Douglass's personal correspondence. So these are special things that the Library of Congress has. And so Adrienne recorded this for us ahead of time so that she could share these items with us. Remember, y'all, the Library of Congress is our library. It's the people's library. And this is an opportunity for us to learn at a deeper level just how important the documents, the manuscripts, the music that the Library of Congress holds and preserves for us. So the very next person that you're going to hear from is Dr. Adrienne Cannon.
Hello, my name is Adrienne Cannon. I am the Afro-American History and Culture Specialist for the Manuscript Division and the curator of the Frederick Douglass Papers at the Library of Congress. The Frederick Douglass Papers at the Library of Congress primarily consists of correspondence, a book, article and speech file, family papers, a subject, legal, and financial files. The correspondence reflects Douglass's wide acquaintances with leaders in many fields of public life, his the enduring nature of his many friendships, his role as a family man, and the high esteem in which he was held by ordinary people. Douglass attended the first Women's Rights Convention in Seneca Falls, New York, organized by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Loretta and Lucretia Mott in 1848. He remained committed to equal rights for women throughout his life. Among the notable female reformers prominently represented in the correspondence are two African American women, Ida B. Wells Barnett and Rosetta Douglass Sprague. Ida B. Wells Barnett, the fiery journalist, women's rights activist, and civil rights militant, is primarily known for her anti-lynching crusade. Wells Barnett mobilized public opinion against lynching through her newspaper editorials, her pamphlets, her clubs, and her tours through the northern United States and Great Britain. In the 1890s, Frederick Douglass joined Ida B. Wells Barnett and Mary Church Terrell in the fight against lynching. Douglass came to call on Ida B. Wells Barnett in 1892 after reading her articles in the New York Age newspaper. In this October 17, 1892 letter, Wells asked Douglass to write her a letter of support, which appeared in her 1892 pamphlet, Southern Horrors. At Wells' request, Douglass also wrote this letter of introduction during her second tour of Great Britain. That same year, Douglass delivered his last major speech, Lessons of the Hours, a condemnation of Southern lynch law, to audiences across the country. In 1895, Wells published one of her noted pamphlets, A Red Record, tabulated statistics and alleged causes of lynching in the United States, in which she argued that the impetus behind lynching was economic. This is a copy from the Frederick Douglass Papers. Why is this important? Well, after the Civil War, lynching became a systematic feature of white supremacy. Between 1892 and 1968, an estimated 4,742 persons died at the hands of a lynch mob. By the 1920s, 90% of the victims were Black, and 95% of all lynchings occurred in Southern states. Rosetta Douglass Sprague was the eldest child of Frederick Douglass and Anna Murray Douglass. Douglass sent her to private tutoring from the age of 7 through her teens to ensure her intellectual development. Rosetta attended Oberlin's Preparatory School and the Salem Normal School in New Jersey. She worked primarily as a teacher before her marriage to Nathaniel Sprague in 1863. Rosetta was a founding member, along with Ida B. Wells Barnett and Mary Church Terrell, of the National Association of Colored Women in 1896, the largest federation of African American women's clubs in the nation. The 3-day convention included a tribute to Frederick Douglass at his home, Cedar Hill, in the Anacostia neighborhood of Washington, D.C. Rosetta presented her famous tribute to her mother at the event. Rosetta and her father shared a close relationship. Annie Murray Douglass was illiterate, and so Rosetta dutifully wrote to her father during his travels. In this, she wrote this letter to her father in December 1859. At the time, Douglass was in England. He had fled the United States in October to escape arrest by federal marshals, who sought him as a co-conspirator in John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry. In the letter, Rosetta reports that Annie, the youngest daughter and the last child of Frederick and Anna Murray Douglass, is attending school regularly, and that she is the best student in the class. Annie also wrote a letter to her father in the December 6th letter. She wrote her letter on the back of Rosetta's letter. And in her letter, Annie reports proudly to her father on the progress she is making at school. Shortly after the letter was written, Annie became ill, and on March the 13th, 1860, 9 days before her 11th birthday, she died. Douglass returned home to mourn Annie's passing, completely ignoring the risk of being imprisoned. So why is this important? Well, this is one of the rare extant records of Annie. There are no photographs of Annie. No photographs exist. It provides insight into Douglas's role as a father. And the letter crystallizes the heart-wrenching tragedy of losing a child, which resonates across the ages. And so this is a small sampling of the correspondence that awaits your...
For the people who are invested and or needing the closed captions, please be clear that when we upload this completed video, the captions will be there, and so you will be able to fully participate. We're apologizing throughout because we are still learning how to do this properly and appropriately. So we appreciate your patience and your grace. Right now, the very next person that you're going to hear from is Dr. Gabrielle Foreman, who is going to give us even more context about some of what we've learned and more of what we're getting ready to learn as we move into the next section of transcribing. Dr. Foreman?
I am just about to talk back to the amazing segment we just got from Adrienne Cannon in the Library of Congress. And this tour of Douglas's long history with women's rights, with Black women's activism, and with organizational leadership and committed multi-generational support and sponsorship that we heard her really talk about. If you're in DC, please plan a trip to the Library of Congress. It houses public exhibits, which some of us may not have known are there in one of the most stunningly beautiful buildings in the Capitol. So please do go to the Library of Congress, and you'll be able to see some of the documents that Adrienne Cannon, not the exact documents, but documents like them, that she foregrounded for us today. One thing that her showcasing underscores is how embedded Douglas was within Black institutional concerns, life, leadership, and family. In his family life, he was connected, as you know, for so many years through his children and his grandchildren. He traveled for years, not only with people like Susan B. Anthony and Lucretia Mott and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, but also with the lions of Black history through the 19th century, with the most important editors, with ministers staying in their homes, with the founders of universities and Black colleges, staying in their homes, speaking in their churches, being parts of communities which built Black infrastructure throughout the entire structure and through the entire century. He was friends and frenemies with the lions of Black institution building. He worked with them and sometimes at tactical odds against them, for Black voting and legal rights, for educational access, for labor justice and fair wages, for women's rights, and for freedom from state-sanctioned or state-generated violence against Black people and communities. His activism across communities fueled his life literally until the day he died, just hours after coming home, very much alive and energized from an hours-long women's suffrage meeting on February 20th, 1895. So though we are celebrating today the day of his chosen birth, February 20th, and just less than a week, marks his death as well. So keep on transcribing through the week, right? From February 14th through February 20th, and we can finish the entire archive at the Library of Congress and all the records that we have listed and still have to be done. Get as much as you can get done today, but we have until February 20th to really finish this project up. We also see his focus on women's rights and state-sanctioned anti-Black violence with his embrace of Ida B. Wells' strident and effective anti-lynching campaign, an approach that was not always accepted, and not only in terms of her brilliant critical overturning of the too often accepted myth of Black sexual predation that surrounded lynching, but because of the person who brought the message, a woman, a Black woman, a young woman, who was, as they say in my circles, Black at a distance, While she was dismissed and diminished by some, she was defended by Douglass. In other words, Douglass was a risk taker for justice. And by the end of his life, he knew his role, not to impose his vision, but to lend his support to younger leaders, to contribute in the ways that you can at all moments of the struggle, and to do so until your dying breath. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Foreman. Are we starting to really understand how important what we're doing is? The true powerful legacies of Frederick Douglass, and why making his archive accessible to as many people as possible beyond paywalls is a critical piece of participating in this Black History Month. We are so grateful that you're here. We're so grateful that you're doing this work. Right now, there are several teachers, professors, students who are participating in Douglass Day, either for the fun of it or it got assigned. We see you. We're glad you're here. We appreciate you. Those young, bright eyes that are going to be able to interpret the cursive that Dr. Summer Hamilton walked us through and pointed out for the tutorials to give you support. But I also want to ask for the teachers who are teaching K through 12 and or college and university specifically, if you haven't had the time, please go to douglasday.org and look at the teaching resources. We have a complete lesson plan that has been designed to support your work either for this transcribing or for other transcribing projects that you might be interested in. But this particular lesson plan, suite of lesson plans, celebrates and centers Frederick Douglass. And not only does it celebrate and center Frederick Douglass, but we take as a point of departure thinking about the fact that he was the most photographed man in the 19th century and how he represented himself and what that means to us, both as consumers and producers of the way we represent ourselves in the world. So there is an entire, it has everything, Common Core standards, extensions for learners who have different learning modalities, and with questions, including essay questions and journal articles for learners and people who are just interested in engaging this topic beyond the scope of today's presentation and Douglass Day. So take some time, check us out. We would love to get some feedback, find out if you were able to utilize anything in the curriculum, or if you just thought it was interesting and a way for you to learn more about Douglass as we participate in transcribing his archive today. So take a look. You don't have to look right now, but we really do want you to take a look and tell us what you think. So as we're moving into this next section, we are just about getting ready to begin transcribing again. So if you've already had some cake, if you went ahead and you uploaded some of your pictures and interesting things that you found, you took a little break so you could listen to Dr. Foreman talk and explain Frederick Douglass in the context of his Black networked activism, it's a time to get back in. So go ahead, click on what you think might be interesting. If you just want to review, you can review. If you want to start something new, there are thousands of pages. Please, let's start transcribing.
Okay, hello everybody. Welcome back. It is 2:45 or so. We've all been busy. Some of our eyes are feeling a little blurry right now. We've been transcribing and then some. We have made some incredible accomplishments today. If I'm looking at this bar chart, which you may have seen at the top of the page on the LOC's website, and we want to just start by doing a huge acknowledgement. We'll get to thank yous in a moment. A huge acknowledgement. The LOC's website withstood all of us acting on there all at once. That's been incredible for so many of us to be able to do that. That really shows the importance of that infrastructure work. We know that that can be thankless, so we are thanking that right now. And that means that we've been able to do the following. We have been able to work on nearly 2/3 of the papers in this collection already in the first 3 hours of our Transcribe-a-thon. We know that groups are going to keep meeting today, tonight, into the week, into next week. There's plenty of work still left to be done. I see right there, if I'm looking at my screen, there's 31% not even started yet. But that also means, if I go to the next slide, that we've been busy. We have been able to complete 899 pages. Somebody go ahead and get that 900th right now. There are 4,239 pages which have been transcribed and are ready to review right now. If we can really encourage folks, please, please, please take a moment and do some reviewing. Transcribing is really fun, but so is reviewing, and it really, really helps so that we can make sure that these materials are accurate and ready to go as part of our new National Library's permanent historical record. That also means that there are 2,800 pages or so left for you and all of your friends to hang out and get transcribing and reviewing on. And we want to give you just a little bit of a hint, a last kind of technique, which is that we are sometimes so powerful that we are overwhelming a little bit of the server. So as you start to transcribe, we really suggest hitting that save button on a regular basis. Don't wait until you get to the end of the page. You can hit save and keep working. Save, 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 save often so that you can make sure that your work gets saved. Okay, so we now have some ceremonial duties that we are going to invite our two colleagues up. I will now ask Gabby and Courtney to come and share some of what we have found.
Thank you, Jim. So there have been so many amazing highlights. We wish you could share more with you. But some of the things that caught our eye, Connecticut College, incredible turnout at their event. We have Amanda LaCastro sharing some of the special buttons that they've made in their library. Archives Ontario shared some incredible newspaper finds from their collection. Some amazing displays. Our own Lauren Cooper, DigBlack member, shout out Lauren, holding the University Park event here at Penn State, and some amazing transcription finds as well. We also have KU shared their great turnout and a beautiful display of Douglas books, and another person shared some amazing transcription finds. So keep going, keep finding great stuff, keep tagging us on social media. We want to see what you're finding.
Thank you, Gabby. And one of our most favorite parts of Douglas Day is the Great Douglas Day Bake Off. I think we started this about 3 years ago, and each year it has increased in competition. So we have cakes from all over. You can see we have square cakes. We got cakes from elementary schools. We have traditional looking cakes with the roses. And, you know, these are our honorable mentions, so we just appreciate you guys submitting this for us. We have portraits, we have screen portraits, we have handwritten Douglas cakes. It has just been a wide variety. And these are our last few honorable mentions. As you can see, there's a character of Douglas, very cute. And some ones that are really thematic and very colorful. We really love it. But now we're going to announce our prize winners. And it was so hard this year that Gabby and we had to do 4, not 3.
You really blew us away.
Yes, really. Okay, our first one is Hope Brits. She sent this through email, so wherever you are, Hope, we really love this detail and the effort you put into this. This is amazing. And Sarah Sabin, another email submission. We love how you captured Douglas's photography, his love, his framing for it. And also Chris Willoughby and the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I honestly thought this was a book before I knew it was a cake. So we had to give this to you. And lastly, Justine Berry off of Instagram. We love the detail. We love that you put the North Star, because that was a part of his legacy. That's a part of his life. So these are our winners. Congratulations to everyone. Our honorable mentions, our prize winners, and we'll get those prizes to you as soon as possible.
All right. Huge thank you to Courtney and Gabby. Gathering that many photos from social media and all of the cakes was actually somewhat of a challenge today. There were so many cakes. We're not even quite sure how many there were in the end, but maybe 50, maybe 100. Pretty good birthday party, I must say. Thanks to all of you. And we want to say thanks to a number of people here in closing, including a number of folks who've been part of our program today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jim. So first of all, though, seriously, sincerely, thank you. Thank you for joining us for Douglas Day 2024. It's not done yet, but without your work, without your willingness to do this work with us, none of this would be possible. So thank you for joining us. Now, we are going behind the curtain to show you, literally, these are members of our team, including the Penn State Comms team and department, for whom, if it was not for these people, none of this would have taken place today. So I'm going to work through the first slide as people are getting assembled and we're squeezing in. So Debrica McClung, thank you. Pastor Paul McReynolds, thank you. Dr. Clay Coleman, thank you. Dean Clarence Lang, thank you. Courtney, Dr. Foreman, Gabby, Hassan Al-Amin, Dr. Jim Casey, that's me, Denise Berger, Dr. Summer Hamilton, Adrian Cannon, thank you for putting the effort into making this day such an incredible success. The humanity that's gathered behind us, some of whom are going to be named, but if you can, please join us in giving a warm round of applause to the comms department at Penn State. These young people did an amazing professional job, and we really, really appreciate everything that you did to make this possible. Thank you again. Thank you again.
And we've got more to say. Somebody over there at the computer to click us through.
We also want to thank Aiden for her amazing singing.
Yes.
Somebody click us through. Bear with us just one moment. This is when you ask the cast and crew to come on camera real quick. Okay, fabulous. We want to say a special thank you to all of the folks at Be Heard Communications. That has been really one of the most important additions to this year's Douglas Day. I particularly want to thank Denise Berger and Aiden McConan as well for facilitating that contribution. That's such an important part of expanding access to Black history. Especially thank you to Lori Kadir and Edie Malone, as well as Ramel Williams and all the other folks who have made this possible. This is such an important part of that, and we look forward to many more collaborations. There's a few more folks. If we can keep cycling along, we'll delegate, folks. We're almost to the finish line here. Thanks for rocking with us. We cannot say enough about the extraordinary people at the Library of Congress. Wherever you are, please take a moment with us to give them a round of applause. There are so many incredible people. We couldn't begin to thank even half of them. You see just a number of their names on the screen here. Of course, the librarian, Carla Hayden, but also folks who joined us today, Adrian Cannon, Elena Finkelstein, Dana Bell, other folks who showed up in our work in the months and years that it took us to reach this moment. Special shout outs coming in just a moment. We also want to say a quick major thank you to the folks at the Frederick Douglass Papers, if we could keep moving on slides. Their work helped to seed much of the transcription that got us started, as well as their advocacy and support. We see you, we appreciate your collaboration and the deep, long-lasting work coming out of IUPUI. Shout out to the folks in Indiana. We'll move to our next one now. We cannot begin to say what huge fans we are of Lauren Alge and all the people at the Library of Congress and by the people. There was an incredible, you would not begin to believe the invisible work that went into this event today. Thank you, Lauren. We know you're out there. We hope you got some birthday cake. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Lauren. We're truly honored to be in collaboration with you as well. But let's keep rolling. The incredible Douglas Day team has been, for me, one of the real privileges and honors of an entire career. Denise and many of the other folks that you see on the screen here, Courtney, Jen, Aiden, Folan, Summer, Gabby, Gabrielle is here with us, many, many other folks who lift this group up and support us. We want to say thank you as well to all of our friends, all of our families, all the folks who are watching today. We thank you. This takes a lot of long hours to put together, and we know that our families and friends have been lifting us up all this time, including the folks at Dig Black here. You heard from a number of the folks who are part of the Center for Black Digital Research. We want to pay a special thank yous to Dr. Foreman and Moody Turner, who've done so much work, but also Lauren Cooper, who's just down the hall from us here in State College with an incredible event. Lauren Cooper really is one of the real leaders of this work for us. Thank you, as well to Sergio, Wendy Liz, who joined us today, and many other folks.
So on that note, unbelievably, incredibly, because of all this, because of you, because of the importance and the critical work of Frederick Douglass, who is a forefather of the American nation, we say thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for continuing to transcribe. Have an absolutely fabulous rest of Frederick Douglass's birthday and a fantastic Black History Month 2024.
And don't forget to join us next year for Douglas Day 2025.
We'll see you.
Mark that calendar right now.
Bye. Thank you.